Earthworm Jim 2 is a platformer game released in 1995. The game follows the adventures of a worm named Jim who wears a superpowered suit that allows him to fight evil enemies and save the universe. The game features several levels with different challenges, enemies, and bosses that Jim must defeat to progress. Earthworm Jim 2 is considered one of the 10 funniest platformer games of 1995 because of its hilarious and absurd humor. The game is filled with ridiculous characters, bizarre settings, and nonsensical situations that will make players laugh out loud. For example, one level takes place inside the intestines of a giant beast, while another has Jim fighting evil snowmen with a flamethrower. The game also features several humorous cutscenes that parody popular movies and TV shows, such as Indiana Jones and Star Trek. Additionally, the game's soundtrack is filled with catchy and humorous tunes that will stay stuck in players' heads long after they've finished playing. Overall, Earthworm Jim 2 is a hilarious and entertaining platformer game that will keep players laughing and entertained for hours. Its zany humor and creative gameplay make it a classic game that is still enjoyed by gamers today. Rayman is a platformer game that was released in 1995. In the game, the player controls Rayman, a strange creature with no limbs, as he attempts to save his world from an evil creature named Mr. Dark. The game is known for its colorful and imaginative visuals, as well as its quirky sense of humor. Rayman's world is populated by bizarre creatures with silly names like Glowbox and Mr. Scops, and the game's dialogue and cutscenes are full of playful puns and absurd humor. One of the reasons why Rayman is considered one of the funniest platformer games of 1995 is because of its use of physical comedy. Rayman's lack of limbs means that he moves in a very silly and exaggerated way, which is often played for laughs. Additionally, the game's enemies and obstacles are often designed to be comically absurd, such as giant bouncing mushrooms or living musical instruments. Overall, Rayman is a classic platformer game that combines challenging gameplay with a silly and lighthearted sense of humor. Its colorful visuals and playful humor make it a beloved and memorable game for gamers of all ages. Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Kong Quest is a video game released in 1995. It is the second game in the Donkey Kong Country series and follows Diddy Kong and his girlfriend Dixie Kong as they endeavor to rescue Donkey Kong from the evil King K. Rool. The game takes place across different levels and worlds, each with its own unique challenges and enemies. The gameplay involves jumping, running, and defeating enemies to progress to the next level. The game also introduces new features such as team-up moves, where Diddy and Dixie can work together to overcome obstacles. One reason why Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Kong Quest is considered one of the 10 funniest platformer games of 1995 is because of its humorous character designs and animations. The game features whimsical enemies such as beavers wearing hard hats and giant wasps with sunglasses. The game also has humorous moments, such as when Diddy and Dixie ride on the back of a swordfish named On Guard. The game also employs witty dialogue and puns, adding to its overall humor. For example, in one level, the player must navigate through a giant honeycomb, and the level's name is Honeycomb Clamber. The game's humor helps to make it an enjoyable and memorable game for players of all ages. Jazz Jackrabbit is a classic platformer game that was released in 1994. The game follows the adventures of Jazz, a green rabbit who is on a mission to save his girlfriend, Eva, from the evil Devon Shell. Jazz must navigate through various levels filled with enemies, obstacles, and power-ups to ultimately defeat Devon and rescue Eva. The game is considered one of the 10 funniest platformer games of 1995 because of its humorous storyline and entertaining characters. Jazz himself is a witty and sarcastic hero who frequently cracks jokes and makes funny comments throughout the game. The game's enemies are also comically designed, with silly expressions and exaggerated movements. In addition to its humor, Jazz Jackrabbit is also known for its fast-paced gameplay and challenging levels. The game features a variety of power-ups, including rapid-fire guns, invincibility shields, and rocket packs, which add to the game's excitement and replay value. Overall, Jazz Jackrabbit is a classic platformer game that combines humor, action, and challenge to create a fun and memorable gaming experience. Its lighthearted tone and entertaining characters make it a standout game from its era, and it remains a beloved classic among gamers to this day. Plok is a platformer game that was released in 1993.
Oh shit!
The game follows the adventures of a character named Plok, who is on a mission to retrieve his stolen flag.
Question mark!
The game is known for its quirky and humorous elements that make it one of the funniest platformer games of 1995. The game's humor is evident from the moment the player starts playing. Plok's body is made up of detachable body parts, which he can throw at enemies as weapons. This provides a comical element to the game as players watch Plok's arms and legs fly through the air. Another funny aspect of the game is the character's personality. Plok is portrayed as a confident and somewhat egotistical character, who is always ready with a witty remark. His interactions with the game's other characters provide many moments of humor. The game's graphics and sound also contribute to its comedic elements. The game's bright colors and cartoonish style add to the game's overall lighthearted nature. The game's music is also upbeat and catchy, adding to the game's overall fun factor. Overall, Plok is one of the funniest platformer games of 1995 due to its quirky and humorous elements. The game's unique gameplay mechanics, character personalities, and graphics all contribute to its comedic nature. Pandemonium is a video game released in 1996 where the player controls two characters, a jester named Fargus and a sorceress named Nikki, who must navigate through various levels to stop an evil queen named Nasty. Players progress through the game by jumping over obstacles, defeating enemies, and collecting power-ups. Pandemonium is considered one of the 10 funniest platformer games of 1995 because of its humorous characters, quirky dialogue, and silly situations. For example, Fargus is a clumsy and bumbling character who frequently falls and stumbles, while Nikki is sarcastic and snarky. The game also features amusing cutscenes and humorous level designs, such as a stage where players must navigate through a giant cake while being attacked by angry cupcakes. Overall, Pandemonium combines traditional platformer gameplay with lighthearted humor and charm, making it a standout title in the genre. Gex is a video game featuring a green gecko named Gex who has a passion for watching TV. One day, he gets sucked into his TV and must navigate through various TV shows to escape. The game has humorous elements, including Gex's sarcastic comments throughout the game. Gex is considered one of the 10 funniest platformer games of 1995 because of its witty writing and humorous references to popular culture. The game parodies various TV shows and movies, including The Terminator and Pee-wee's Playhouse. Additionally, Gex's quips and one-liners add to the game's comedic value. The gameplay itself is also entertaining, with Gex jumping and running through various levels filled with obstacles and enemies. The game's levels are diverse, ranging from horror-themed levels to science fiction levels.
Welcome to the New York City Mass Transit System.
The boss battles are also memorable, featuring larger-than-life enemies that Gex must defeat using his various abilities. Overall, Gex is a fun and lighthearted platformer game that is sure to provide a laugh or two. Its clever writing and varied gameplay make it a standout game in the genre. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island is a platformer game where you control Yoshi, a friendly dinosaur who must rescue Baby Mario from the evil Comic and Baby Bowser. The game has colorful and cartoonish graphics with various levels and enemies to overcome. The game is considered one of the funniest platformers of 1995 because of its lighthearted and humorous tone. The game features playful sound effects and whimsical animations, such as Yoshi's tongue-licking enemies or his happy flutter jump. The game also includes comical boss battles, such as a giant frog that eats its own flies and a laughing sun that drops bombs. Additionally, the game's use of eggs as a weapon and puzzle-solving mechanic adds to the game's humor. as Yoshi can transform enemies into eggs and then use them to hit other enemies or activate switches. The game also includes humorous mini-games, such as a matching game where you match faces and a slot machine game where you earn power-ups. Overall, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island is a charming and amusing platformer game that brings a smile to players' faces with its playful humor. Ristar is a platformer game that was released in 1995. The game follows the story of Ristar, a character who is able to stretch his arms to grab onto objects and enemies. Ristar's goal is to save his father, who has been captured by an evil space pirate named Greedy. The game is considered one of the funniest platformer games of 1995 because of its whimsical and light-hearted tone. The levels are filled with quirky and colorful characters, such as bouncing caterpillars and dancing flowers. The game's bosses are also known for their silly and amusing designs, such as a giant pumpkin that shoots fireballs. In addition to its humor, Ristar is praised for its unique gameplay mechanics. The game's arm-stretching mechanic allows for creative level design and strategic combat. Ristar must use his arms to swing from platforms, grab onto enemies, and even launch himself through the air. Overall, Ristar is a charming and entertaining platformer game that stands out for its humor and innovative gameplay. Bubsy 3D is a video game that came out in 1996. It is a platformer game where the player controls a character named Bubsy, who is a cat. Bubsy's goal is to collect objects while avoiding obstacles and enemies. The game is set in a 3D environment, which was new at the time. Bubsy 3D is considered one of the 10 funniest platformer games of 1995 because of its humorous elements. The game is filled with funny jokes and puns, and the character of Bubsy himself is quite comical. For example, Bubsy has a lot of snarky comments and one-liners, such as, "What could possibly go wrong?" and "I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way." The game also pokes fun at other video games and pop culture references. For instance, there is a level called Claw Frenzy that is a parody of the movie Jaws. In this level, Bubsy must fight a giant shark. Overall, Bubsy 3D is a light-hearted and entertaining game that is sure to make players laugh. Its humorous elements and quirky character make it one of the funniest platformer games of 1995.